Welcome to module 3 of Python by Craft Knowledge, and this module is called Control Flow. So yeah, basically we'll be trying to control the flow of our code, our Python code. So let's see how we can do that, but before we talk about the control flow, let's have a quick recap what we have done so far. So basically we have so far in first two modules we have got the introduction to Python, we have installed the IDE, and then we know what is input, how to perform the input and output operations in Python, what are the variables, what are the different data types and data structures in the Python, and we have briefly talked about the data structures in Python so far. We will talk about in much details about the structures like list, tuple, dictionary, and sets and everything, right? And then we talked about arithmetic operators, that is simple mathematical operators, plus, minus, and multiplication, division, and blah and stuff like that. Then we talked about comparison operators that might be quite boring for you guys, but I promise you in just one or two videos you will see the magic of these comparison operators, right? And then we have the logical operators as well, that combines different comparison operators in order to make a longer statement together, right? So in this module, what are the objectives that we will try to achieve? We'll talk about decision making. Yeah, our program will be making its own decisions, and in decision making we have mainly three types of statements: if statement, if else statement, and if else if statement. We also have multiple combinations of these three statements, but mainly these are the three statements, right? And then we can have as many combinations of these decision making statements as we need. Then we have loops. What are the loops? We'll talk about it. We have two types of loops: for loop and while loop. And then we have very important statement that is called continue or break statement that is associated with the loops. We'll see what are these statements. Finally, we'll talk about error handling. Sometimes our code is not expected to run every time. Obviously it can produce errors, so when it will produce errors, how we can handle it? So there are two functions called try and except. So we'll see how we can make use of these two functions in order to perform error handling. Cool. So let's have a quick introduction to decision making. What do we mean by decision making? So basically decision making is one of the most important things, the most important part of our daily life routine. For example, if I just come out of my house, I have to make a decision whether I should turn left, I should turn right. On the signal, if signal is red, I need to make a decision whether I should stop or not. Obviously I should stop, obviously, but I need to convey this decision from my mind to my body as well, whether my car should stop or not, right? So if I'm hungry, then I should eat snacks or pizza, depends upon how much hungry I am. So if we take care of this decision, if I am hungry, then I should eat snacks or pizza. So there are two conditions now. If I am more hungry, then maybe I'll go for pizza. If I am a little bit hungry, then I'll go for snacks, right? So these kind of decision making we do in our daily life. We can do some similar kind of decision making in programming as well. So let's have a quick theoretical overview of what we are going to do, and then in next video we are going to start the practicals. So basically by statements, decision making statements are also called conditional statements. Why? Because these statements run a block of code. What do we mean by block of code? Block of code means that you can say multiple lines of code can combine together in order to make one block of code, right? Such coding lines that together perform one task is called code block or block of code, right? So if a condition is true, then you want to execute a code of block or block of code, whatever, right? And if a condition is false, then you don't want to execute that block of code. If we want to associate this concept with a real life, then I'll say if I am more hungry. If this statement is true, if I am more hungry, I'm very hungry. If this statement is true, then I'll go for pizza. If this statement is false, I'm very hungry. If this is false, which means that I'm not very hungry, then I'll go with snacks, right? So now you may be you're able to link those comparison operators over here. So if the condition is true, if the comparison operator is true, so conditional statements allow you to make decisions in your Python code based on certain conditions. So these conditions are basically those comparison operators. Cool. So they help control the flow of the program and execute different code blocks. Again, code block is, you can say, multiple lines of code that together can perform one bigger task, right? So, and execute different code blocks based on evaluation of conditions, right? So enough of theoretical explanation. Let's jump into the practical in next video. Okay, so the first part of conditional statement or the decision making is if statement, right? So in if statement, so the if statement is used to execute a block of code. I hope you know what is block of code. If not, then don't worry, I'm gonna let you know in practical. So it is used to execute a block of code if specific condition is true, right? This true is basically the Boolean value. So here is the syntax. There will be if as it is followed by a condition. So this condition will basically be a comparison operator, and then there will be a colon, right? 2 dots, and then when we are writing a block of code, we need to indent that block of code inside, right? So we'll have to press a tab over here, and then we'll be inside it, and then we can write block of code over here. We can write as many statements over here as we want. Cool. So here we have a very simple example. If we say age equals to 18, now this is simple, an assignment operator. We are assigning the value 18 to variable age, and then we are saying that if age is greater than or equal to 18, then this colon, you can translate this colon into then. If age is greater than or equal to 18, then print you are eligible to vote. Now this print statement is basically the block of code, right? So let's go into the Jupyter notebook. Where it is? Yeah, here it is. So we'll say age equals to, let's say 18, right? This is simply an assignment operator. And then I'll say if. You see, it turns green because it is a predefined word or a keyword or reserved word over here. So if age is greater than or equal to 18, cool. Yeah, we know that someone who is 18 or over 18 can vote. So I'll hit enter over here, and you see the moment I hit enter, the cursor did not go in the beginning of the line. It comes over here, right? Because the block of code, how do we define the block of code? We define the block of code in Python with this indentation. And by the way, if it goes over here in the beginning, you see, then all you have to do is you have to press a tab button, and that's it, right? So I'll write print you are eligible to vote. Cool. Now if I run it, here we go, you are eligible to vote. Why? Because age was 18. And what if I want to write multiple lines over here, or I want to do some calculations, or I want to do anything in more than one lines? Then what you have to do is enter, and again you don't have to go to the beginning of the line, you have to start from here because this is the block of code, right? And I'll say print go and vote for your favorite person. Cool. Now if I run it, you can see both of these lines are executed. But what if the age is, let's say, 10 years old? Now what will happen? Age is 10, so it will say if age is greater than or equal to 18. What is the output? By the way, first of all, you tell me what kind of condition is it? This is a comparison operator. This is a comparison condition, right? Because here we have the comparison operators, greater than or equal to. Okay. Now, age is greater than 18? No, because age is 10. Okay, age is equal to 18? No, age is 10. Then this is going to be false. If this is going to be false, then the body of if condition is not going to be executed. So if I run it, here we go, it is not executed. And if I make it 20, then this condition is true. Why? Because now age is greater than 18. And if I run it, here we go, this is executed. One more thing, if I say print code ended, right? If I do something like this, then what will happen? Any guess? Now remember, this print statement, this third print statement, is not in the body of if statement, right? This third print statement is not in the code block of the if statement, right? Remember, I told you this indentation defines that which code belongs to which statement. So this code belongs to this if statement, but this code does not belong to this statement. Why? Because these both if statement and this print statement are at the same indentation level, right? So if I run it, this third line will always be executed. Does not matter if this condition is true or not, right? If I make it 10 again, now this will be skipped. Why? Because this is the body of this if statement, but this will not be skipped. This will be executed. If I run it, here we go, code ended. Cool. So this is how you can work with if statements. But what if I want to write a code that will work in both scenarios? If if someone is eligible, then it should output you are eligible. If someone is not eligible, it should actually mention that you are not eligible. Here it is not mentioning anything. So how can we do that? Okay, so in order to solve the problem that we encountered in last video, we have if else statement. So basically the problem was we were able to only execute the body of if statement, but there wasn't any, you can say, any part where we can execute the other statement as well. So the else part, right? The else is a new thing. If is exactly the same thing, but else part is new. So the else statement follows an if statement, obviously, and is used to execute a block of code if the condition in if statement is false, right? So if this if statement is false, then else body will be executed. For example, here we have the syntax for if condition is exactly the same. If this condition is true, then this code is going to be executed, but if this condition is false, then it will go into the else part and the body of else part will be executed. Confused? Don't worry. Here we have an example. So let's say let's continue our previous example, and example was the voting example, and the age is 16. So if age is greater than or equal to 18, then print out you are eligible to vote. Cool. But if you're not eligible to vote, then what was the problem? We need to output you're not eligible to vote. Cool, right? This was the thing. So if age is greater than 18, then do this blah blah blah. Else, if this is not true, then do this, then print you're not eligible to vote yet, right? So let's go to our environment and let's just copy this and extend this code over here. So let's say the age is 10, or maybe let's make it 16. So if age is greater than or equal to 18, then do this thing. Otherwise, now let's get out of the body of if statement and then we'll write else. You see, the moment we wrote else, it turns into green, and then colon. Don't forget this colon sign, right? This colon sign has to be here. Then I hit enter, and now it is already indented, so I don't have to press tab button over here. So I'll say print you are underage, or maybe what was the example? You're not eligible to vote. Okay, so you are not eligible to vote. Cool. Now you tell me what is going to be the output if I execute this code. You are not eligible to vote. That's it, or anything else as well? Yeah, code ended will obviously be output. So here we go. So you are not eligible to vote, code ended, right? If I make it 160, then what is going to be the output? Tell me all the lines that is going to be the output. Pause the video over here and tell me the line. Now continue. Run it. Here we go. So you are eligible to vote. Go and vote for your favorite person. So basically what is happening over here is, if age is greater than equal to 18, if this is true, then it goes to this body. But if this is false, then it comes to the body of else. Cool? Okay, great. So we are able to solve one problem, but we have another problem. What if we have, here we have only two, previously we had one scenario, here we are able to cater two scenarios. But what if we have three scenarios? Then what will we do? What if someone's age is greater than 18, we want to print this. Someone's age is less than 18, we want to print this. But if someone is exactly 18-year-old, we want to print that, congratulations, this is your first vote. Vote carefully, something like this. Right now we have three conditions. How to deal with it? Okay, so the problem was we were not able to cater the three conditions. We were able to cater two conditions, but not three. So here we have the new thing, if, else if, right? So else if is in short called elif, right? So in some programming languages it is else if, but in Python it is elif. So the elif statement, I don't know why this is elif not else if. Maybe they were they took care of the programmers. They did not want programmers to type extra two letters, S and E, so maybe that's why they made it elif, or I don't know why. So the elif statement allows you to check multiple conditions, right? So it is used when you have more than two possible outcomes. So here is the syntax. If, that is the simple one. If condition 1, if this is true, then this code chunk is going to be executed. Ignore this second part. Come to third part. Else, if and else. We already know this if and else thing, right? So now this, come to this ignored part, right? So this says elif condition 2. Now if condition 1 is true, then this part is going to be executed. If condition 1 is false, then code flow will come to this elif and it will check out this condition. If this condition is true, then this body will be executed. But what if both of these conditions are false? Then it will automatically go to this else part and this third part will be executed. Let me show you an example. So again, the same example. Let's say age is 25 now. Now if age is less than 18, then we'll say you're not eligible to vote yet. But if age is exactly 18, equal to 18, then this is your first voting year. We'll output something like this. And else, what is the third condition? If someone is not less than 18, if someone is not exactly 18, the only thing that left is someone is greater than 18, obviously. Then you will print you are eligible to vote, right? So let's go to our environment again and let's copy this stuff, paste it over here because we want to continue with this one. Okay, let me see if it is zoomed in. Yeah, it is zoomed in. Okay, so the age is, no, let's make it yeah, 16 now. So if age is 16, now here we are saying if age is greater than or equal to 18. No, let's remove equal to sign. If someone is exactly over 18, then we will output, yeah, you are eligible, go and vote, right? And here we'll say if, okay? And then we need to put the condition over here. So if someone is greater than 18, then this will be executed. And elif, the age is equal to 18. Now if someone is exactly 18, right, then again this colon sign and then the body starts from here. So print congrats, okay, and then again print you are eligible to vote. Oh, I should have written this is your FIR first voting year. Cool. Now if someone is greater than 18, here he is eligible to vote or she is eligible to vote. If someone is equal to 18, the one is voting for the very first time. Else, otherwise, what is the condition left? someone is obviously less than 18, then that someone is not eligible to vote. Cool. Hit run button and it says that you are not eligible to vote. Okay, let's make it 19. It says that you're eligible to vote. Go and vote for your favorite person. Now let's make it exactly 18. Here we go. Congrats, this is your first voting year. Cool. Okay, now here we can cater 3 conditions, right? One condition in if, second condition is in elif, third condition is in the else part. But what if we have more than 3 conditions? You might be annoyed that how many conditions do we have to learn? So the good news is you don't have to learn more conditions. You can just you can say combine these 3 conditions together, and you can achieve the results of combining as many conditions as you want. For example, what if we have a 4th condition? The 4th condition says that what if someone is greater than 60 years old? You don't want to let old people to vote. Let's say, well, that is a very bad thing, but my condition, my country says that, or my empire says that I will not let old people to vote. So I'll make one more elif condition over here, right? So if someone is greater than 18, so maybe let me generate an error over here first, and then I'll solve this error with you guys. That will be quite interesting. So I'll generate an elif condition over here. So elif age is, and you will see it will really matter where we need to put which condition. So elif age is greater than 60, then I'll say print you are too old, okay, to vote. Okay, something like this. Well, that is very harsh, but yeah, we need to learn something. Okay, and here then if someone is less than 18, then we should say you're let's say you are too young to vote. Cool. Okay, now let's start with 16, right? So it says you're too young to vote, don't vote, or blah 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 blah. Let's make it 18. So it says congratulations, this is your first voting year. Makes sense. Now if I make it maybe 20, now guess what is going to be the output? The output is going to be you're eligible to vote. Go and vote for your favorite person. Yeah, this is something that we expected. But what if I make it 70? Now in our mind, 70 is greater than 60, right? So this should be the output, correct? But let me tell you, the output will be this one. Why? Pause the video and try to see why. Okay, now continue the video, and if you're not able to find out, then let me tell you. First of all, here we go. It says that you're eligible to vote, whereas we wanted to print this one. So what is actually happening is it says age equals to 70. Okay, so if age is greater than 18, so what is age? Age is 70. 70 is greater than 18. Yeah, that is true. So it prints out this one. So the first condition that it finds true, it prints it goes into the body of that condition. It goes into the code block of that condition. So how can we cater this thing? Simply by putting 60 over here and 18 over here. Now see, if we also need to switch the statements as well. Okay, so what do we need to do? We need to copy this and cut, not copy, put it here and remove this L, and let's make elif this one, right? Now what is happening? We are saying that so the first condition is we are checking if age is 60, right? Now if I run it, here we go, you're too old to vote. And if I make it 20, now it says that you're eligible to vote. Now if I make it 18, it says that congrats, this is your first voting year. And now if I make it 16, it says that you're too young to vote, right? So this hierarchy really matters. You need to take care of this hierarchy, and now we are able to cater 4 conditions, right? Now this is your job. You can say this is your assignment to make 5 conditions of some other scenario in your mind, and you need to extend this if, elif, and else conditions to 5. You can say to 5 different conditions, right? So this is going to be your assignment. So far we are done with the conditional statements. So we know what is if statement, what is if else if, and so on. Now let me give you a task, a very basic task. So you have to perform the following 3 tasks, right? So first of all, what you have to do, you have to print hello world for 5 times. So you can pause this video right here and you can go to Jupyter Notebook and you should print hello world for 5 times. How can you do that? All you have to do is you have to write this print hello world statement for 5 times. That's it. So pause the video and go ahead, do it. Okay, so if you have done it, now go ahead and print this hello world for 50 times now, right? So pause the video and do it. Cool, awesome. So now listen to me very patiently. Go ahead and print hello world for 500,000 times. Okay, pause the video and try to do it. Well, I know, you're quite angry now. So I know no one wants to do that. No one wants, everyone hates repetition. Okay, fine, if it is only for 5 times. If someone is very patient, then maybe he or she can do it for 50 times, but no one is going to do it for 500,000 times. So yeah, there's a logic that why you're angry now. Do we have a better way to do this? The good news is, yes, we have a solution, and the solution is called loop. Hey, loop, how loop can solve my problem. So basically, what was the problem? Problem is I want to repeat a task. Okay, then how loop is gonna help me out? Let's see. So basically, loop is something. So loop is basically loop is a sequence of instructions that is continually repeated until a certain condition is reached. What do we mean by that? Which means that it helps us in repeating a sequence of instructions, or you can say a sequence of commands, or you can say a block of code, right? These are the synonyms. So if we want to repeat anything, we'll make use of a loop. Okay, so how many times it will repeat the sequence, or it will repeat the block of code? It will keep repeating until a certain condition is reached. Now if you remember that if statement, whenever this word condition comes into play, the if statement should come into your mind. So yeah, it is something similar to the if condition. So unless a condition is true, it will keep repeating itself. For example, I want to print hello world for 5 times. Now this is a repetition. All you have to do is you have to write this print hello world for 1 time, and then you should ask loop to repeat yourself. Or if I want to print a table of 5, or maybe a table of 10 or 7 or 20 or whatever, that is what? That is just a repetition of some calculations, right? Remember, that is just a repetition of some calculations. All you have to do is you have to add the same number to the previous amount every time, and so on and so forth. So any task that requires repetitions, the solution is loop. So we mainly have 2 types of loops: while loop and for loop. Well, you can use while loop anywhere you want, you can use for loop anywhere you want, but there is ease of the use cases in both of these loops. For example, you should use while loop when you do not know certainly for that how many times you have to repeat the task, you have to repeat the iterations, right? You don't know exactly, but you have to decide down the line, right? And for loop is usually used to iterate over the elements of data structures like list, tuple. For example, we have a list of 100 elements. I want to iterate over it. I want to print, let's say, all the elements one by one, or I want to perform some operation on all the elements of the list. I can make use of this for loop over there. Well, that is some high level overview of loop. I introduced a problem and then I introduced the solution as well. And from next lecture, we are going to talk about what is while loop and we'll go hands on. Alright, so what is while loop? And here is the syntax, right? Again, wherever the word loop comes into play, we know that it helps us in repeating the repeating the block of code. So here is the syntax for while loop. So first of all, we'll have a keyword while, right? We'll write it as it is in lowercase, and then we will have a condition, right? So this while loop will keep repeating this block of code. Again, what do we mean by block of code? Which one is the block of code of this while loop? Whatever the coding instructions are indented inside this while loop are the part of block code of this while loop, right? Okay, so this block of code will keep executing itself again and again until or unless this certain condition produces an output of false. As long as this condition is true, it will keep repeating itself, right? Let's have an example over here. Okay, so first of all, let's say the count is equals to 0. Count is just a simple variable, nothing else. Cool. And then we have while, that is a keyword, reserved word. We'll write it as it is. Then count, which is this variable. We say count is less than 5. Now here's a quiz question. What is this count less than 5? That is a conditional statement that will output, that is a comparison operator, right? So what is the output of comparison operator? Output of comparison operator is always going to be Boolean, either true or false. So while this condition is true, is it true right now? Is count less than 5? Yeah, count is 0, so 0 is less than 5, so it is true. So this block of code is going to be executed. So it will say print count. So it will print out count. What is the value of count right now? It is 0. So it will print out what? It will print out 0. And then at second line, we are saying that count plus equals to 1. What do we mean by that? So it is saying that count equals to count plus 1. So count is now incremented. Now the value of count is 1. So it will come back to this while statement line. It will say, okay, 1 is less than 5. Yeah, it is true. So it will again execute this block of code. And now count will become 2, then 3, then 4, and then 5. When count will become 5, now this condition will become false. Why? Because 5 is less than 5? No, that is not true. That is false. So when this will become false, it will stop executing this body of code and it will come out of its scope, right? So let's go ahead and let's see how it works actually. So we'll say count equals to, let's say 0, and we'll say while, that is a keyword that turns into green, and we'll say count is less than 5. Cool. And here we'll say print. Let me just print hello world for now, right? Hello world. Cool. And here I need to update the count, otherwise it will keep running forever. It will never stop. So if I run it, here we go. You see this hello world is printed 5 times. Cool. Okay. Now instead of hello world, if I would like to print, let's say here I would say count is, and here I'll say count. Okay. So it says count is 0 at first iteration, then count is 1 at second iteration, and so on and so forth. When count is 4, and at next iteration count becomes 5, so now this condition becomes false, so it does not execute this part of code now, right? Okay, now here's a quiz question. What if I do something like this? Instead of equal to sign, I make it equal to or, instead of less than sign, I make it less than or equal to. Now what is going to be the output? Yep, you're right. So it is going to count it until 5, because now when count will become 5, this condition will still be true. Correct? Okay. Now here is a quiz question. What if I want to count these countings in descending order from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0? I want to do something like that. What changes do I have to make over here? Pause the video and try it by yourself. Okay, so if you have tried, what we have to do, we have to start from 5, right? And we need to stop at 0, right? And we need to also change this condition as well. So now count is greater than or equal to 0, we need to make it, right? And then here we don't have to make it count plus equals to 1 because it is already 5. If we'll make it plus equals to 5, then it will become 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we need to make it count minus equals to 1. And if I run it, here we go, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Now here is your, you can say, homework. If I make count minus equals to 2, then what will happen? Here we go. So it says 5, so it starts with 5, so 5 is printed. Now count minus equals to 2 means that it is decrementing count by 2, so count becomes 3, so that is why 3 is printed, and then count becomes 1, and 1 is printed, and then count becomes minus 1. Since minus 1 is greater than or equal to 0, no, this is false, so it does not execute this part. Cool? Yes, no? Great. So now here is a practice question for you guys. You know how to take input from the user, right? So all you have to do is you have to say input, and then you'll have to say enter. Okay, forget about it. Yeah, forget about it. So for now what you have to do is you have to say num1 equals to assign any number, let's say 5, right? And now you have to write a while loop that prints the table of 5 for 10 times, which means that it should output something like 5 multiply by 1 is 5, right? And then it should do something like 5 multiplied by 2 is 10, and so on and so forth. And finally it should say 5 multiplied by 10 is 50, right? So if this number is 5, then it should print out something like this. If this number is 3, then it should print out the table of 3, and so on and so forth, right? So that is your homework, and I expect you guys to complete it. It is great if you were able to complete it, and if you were not able to complete it, let me do it for you guys, right? So let's say num equals to 5, and what we have to do is we have to say, while, okay, so while here we need to have a counter as well, so we'll say count equals to 1. We'll start from 1, right, since this counter is 1. So we'll say count, while count is less than or equals to 10, since we have to go until 10, so we'll say count is less than equals to 10 while, and then we'll say print. Now we need to print out this statement. Now I mean, this 5 is coming from this variable num, right? So we'll say num, comma, and then we have multiply by, this is simply a string, so I'll write this string over here, 5 multiplied by, and this 1 is basically, this is at first iteration it is 1, at second iteration it is 2, then 3, then 4, then 5, and then ultimately it will be 10. So this is basically count, right? So I'll say num multiply by count, and then again I'll say is, comma, and now here I need to write some calculation. So let's say result, res is, let's say it is a result, so we'll say num multiply by count, right? And I can write res over here, or there is another way to do it. I can directly write this expression over here like this, right? So it will output num multiply by count is num multiply by count, okay? And then I need to update this count variable by saying plus equals to 1. Cool. Let me run it, and here we go. I can print out the table of any number. Let's say, let's make it let's replace 5 with 3, and I can print out the table of 3. I can print out the table of 31 as well. I can print out some odd tables like 17 or whatever. So congratulations, here you have sort of built up your own application to print out the tables. Okay, so we are done with while loop. Let's talk about this for loop. For loop makes your life very easy when you want to iterate over the data structures. So here is the syntax. So it says for, that is a keyword. Then here will be a controlling variable name. I'll explain it what it is. For a variable in data structure, this data set n is a keyword again, and data structure is going to be either list or dictionary or tuple or whatever, right? And then here you'll have the block of code over here. Let's have a concrete example that would make things more easier. So for example, here we have a list of fruits: apple, banana, and cherry, right? And then we say for, that is a keyword, and this is basically the controlling variable. So for fruit in fruits, this fruits is basically the list. So for the first iteration, this variable fruit will represent apple, that is the first element of the list, right? So it will print out apple. For the second iteration, this fruit will represent banana, and for the third iteration, fruit will represent cherry, right? To make things more clear, we'll go to Jupyter Notebook, and I have already I have a list over here ready for you guys. So I'll say for fruit in fruits, and by the way, you can use any variable name over here. You can use, let's say, your name as well, but that would be ethically not good, but legally you can use it. Okay, so if I say simply print fruit, cool, here we go, apple, banana, cherry. Okay, now here is a quiz question. What if I say print fruit of 0? Now what will be the output? Think about it. If I run it, the output is ABC. Hey, is it outputting the alphabets in ascending order? No. Then what is it? If we look at it very carefully, what is this fruit? Fruit is basically a string. For example, for the first iteration, fruit is going to be this string, apple. And if I say fruit of 0, index 0, so basically I'm doing indexing in the string. So at 0th index of this string, what is the alphabet over here? What is the character over there? That is A. So it is outputting A over here, right? And then at second iteration, the banana is stored in the fruit, and what is the banana of 0? That is B. And what is the cherry of 0? That is C. So it is outputting A, B, C. Cool. Maybe if I do something like this, 1, then it will say P, A, and H, right? Okay, we also know that. Okay, so what if I want to do something like, there's a function for the strings. If you remember, I can search inside the string. For example, I can say I can say here's the apple, right? Apple dot, there is a count method, right, in the strings. So I can count how many specific characters are there. So I can count the P's in apple. So there are 2 P's in the apple, right? So what if I do something similar over here, and let me just copy this over here so that I don't ruin the original code. Okay, so here I want to say fruit dot count, and I want to count what? Let's say A. I want to count alphabet A. So what will happen actually? It will count alphabet A in apple first, then alphabet A in banana first, and then alphabet A in cherry. And I can also do something like this. Let's say here I mentioned that total number of A's, A in now here there will be the fruit name, total number of A in fruit R, then colon, and then the count will be there. Okay, so if I run it, so here we go. So total number of A in apple are 1, total number of A in banana are 3, total number of A in cherry are 0. So whenever you need to iterate over any data structure, you can blindly choose for loop for it, and wherever you'll have to do iteration for a certain number of count, certain number of times, then you should go for the while loop, right? So this is the main difference between, you can achieve the functionality of while loop by using for loop as well, and vice versa, but it is advisable to use the relevant tool at the relevant problem, right? So that's about it for the loops, and that's really not about it. We will talk much more about loops in loops and if conditions and all of other things in upcoming lectures as well. Whenever you're coding in any programming language, this word is your friend. That is called error. So don't be afraid of errors. That is going to be your lifelong friend as long as you're coding, right? But there is a way to deal with it. There is a way to deal with this notorious friend. So there's a tool called try except in Python. Basically, if you're afraid that okay, there could be a possible error in my this chunk of code or in my this block of code, you'll have to put that block of code or that line of code inside this try statement, right? And if there will be an error, it will simply it will not, you can say, stop the flow of your programming of your program. It will simply shift the flow of your program from try to except. So if there is an error in try block, it will output or it will execute the except block. So usually in except block we mention something like, okay, there is an error in your code or stuff like that, and then your code keeps running after these lines. It does not stop. So basically it helps you from, it prevents your code from stopping anywhere, right? For example, here as you see, we are saying that result equals to a divided by b. Now there's a possibility that b is 0. b could be 0, right? And if you divide any number by 0, that is a mathematical error, and in programming it is also an error. So let's see how we can deal with it in programming. So let's say here is a 7. If I divide 7 by 0, that is an error, right? So 0 division error. Okay, so let's see how we can deal with it. So okay, here I'll say a equals to, let's say, 12, b equals to let's make it 7, right? And here I'll say try colon print, and I'll say result of division is, and here I'll say a divided by b, and then I'll say except c, and here I'll say print there was some error. Okay, now first of all, our code will try to run this statement. If there will be any error in running this statement, then it will go to except. But if this statement will be able to run, you can say, successfully, then except part will be ignored, right? So if I run it, here we go. So result of division is 1.714 blah 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 blah. And by the way, if I make it double divided, I will write 2 slashes, which means float division, then it will ignore this floating point part. Here we go, like this, right? Okay, so that was just a side information. Okay, now I want to make the error. I'll say not 7 but 0. Cool. Now this should produce an error. If I run it, here we go, it says there was some error. It did not stop the execution of my code here, right? For example, if I say a divided by b, and then here I do something like print hi. If I run it, it will not go to the second line. Why? Because it has encountered an error over here at the first line. But over here, if I say something like print, let's say code ended, now it has an error over here, but the error has an except statement that will be executed, and code will keep running, so it will not stop its execution. Here we go, right? It tried to run this line, there was an error, so it went to except line, and then after that it went to this print line. Cool. So this is how you can put your code where you think that there could be an error if user imports some wrong number or stuff like that. So there is a possibility of an error over here, so you can put that code in try, and then you can write the except part for that code as well.